Old School Lane Casual Chats is brought to you by Old School Lane, producing various content from blogs, videos, and podcasts discussing about movies, TV shows, video games, and everything else in between since 2011. You can check out the podcast on Anchor, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Radio Public, Overcast, Breaker, Pocket Cast, and YouTube. We're associated with Channel Frederator, Manic Expression, The Comic Book Cast, and The Arun Mehta Show. Everyone, welcome to a new episode of Casual Chats. I am Patricia, and I am here with a group of people discussing about Season 2A of the 2020 animated Disney Channel series, The Owl House. So, returning guests, we have Arun Mehta from The Arun Mehta Show.
Yeah, I've escaped the conformatorium and currently forming the Ranting Raving Talk Radio Coven.
Yes. Okay. Well, thank you.
That's
Aaron.
not the one with Joe Rogan as the coven head, is it? Because if it is, run.
And also joining us back is Paul Thomas, aka Gunter Fan 1992. So welcome back, Paul.
Oh, thanks for having me.
We also have Morgan Terry. You may know her for her reactions, for her art, and various other things. So welcome back, Morgan.
Thank you for having me. Pleasure to be back.
And we have, people that have been on the podcast before, but not discussing about the Owl House. But you may know him. He's been pretty much in almost half of my podcast at this point, looking back in almost 10 years that I've been doing this. So we have Jim Bevan. Welcome back, Jim.
Thank you. Always glad to be here. Not sure if it was half yet, but I'm going to try and get up to that level.
I need to actually count it, by the way. I've been doing over 170 something episodes of my podcast, and I need to look back on to see, okay, which one is the ones that Jim has been a part of. So yeah, I need to count it. But other people that have not been on Casual Chats, but they actually have been on a podcast in some way, shape, or form. It's actually a friend of mine from school, and we do a podcast together called the Banter Broadcast. We have Malia, so welcome, Malia.
Wait, okay, there you go. My phone tripped out on the first one. Okay. But hey, guys.
And I want you to introduce your guest, Morgan, so go for it.
Well, her internet crashed, so she'll be back in the call in a second, but I can introduce her now if you want.
Yeah, go for it.
Wait, she might have
back.
Oh, there she is. Okay, she's back.
Sorry about that.
So you're fine. So this is Johnny's Fire. I met her via the Owl House fandom, since that's what we're talking about today. And I watched her YouTube videos where she had her friend guess the Owl House characters. And shortly after that, she had said something about making a fan Owl House sign. And she was taking artists and writers and things like that. So I hit her up on Instagram and I joined the Discord server, and we've been talking and we've been friends ever since.
So welcome, Johnny.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, so going into our main topic today, we did a podcast discussing about season 1 of The Owl House in honor of the season 2 premiere date. Now, season 2A has been complete with 10 episodes, and currently it is on hiatus as of the recording of this podcast. So very similar to the last podcast we did, we're going to be talking about characters, stories, episodes, theories, anything that we have in our minds of this particular season 2A, and also if there are any speculations for what is to come for season 2B. So right before we get into that, for those who weren't on the last podcast, I'd like to know how you guys got introduced to it. So
I really don't remember how I got into the Owl House, to be quite honest. I remember seeing stuff all over Instagram and that. And I was like, you know what, I'm going to give it a shot. And then I've watched every episode of season 1 out of order, and I was confused. But I got the hang of it for season 2.
Okay. Malia, how about you?
So I really like cartoons, obviously like Steven Universe, Infinity Train, She-Ra, and all that, Avatar to Airbender, Legend of Korra. And you know, once you start watching those shows, you kind of like get into like all of them at once, especially like when a new one drops. So when I heard about the Owl House, I was like, I gotta watch it. It's a new show. So yeah.
All right. Jim, how about you?
I got into it. He's not here, so I don't have the chance to thank him. But Tim was the one who basically got me turned on to it because he would frequently talk about how much he enjoyed it. So based on his recommendation, I checked it out and got drawn in pretty quickly.
All right.
It helps that that Wendy Malick is in the voice cast because she's one of my favorite actresses.
Mm-hmm. All right. So with all the stuff out of the way, now I want to ask for the not older fans. I'm sorry. I want to ask for the guests who were in the last podcast, and we'll get to the newer guests as well. So the last time that you guys were on the show, we were talking about like favorite characters and favorite episodes and all that kind of stuff. So I want to ask for all of you guys: has your favorite character changed, or has it, like drastically gotten more appreciative since then?
I guess I'll start with myself first. I think Amazi's still my character in the show, and though I've taken a liking to Luz as well. So I mean, like those, I mean that's still kind of a still same thing. Though surprisingly enough, I think though Hootie tries to get into my good graces, he just totally screws it up in other times. So like yeah, it's so I've got like two favorite characters and half character at the moment, I guess I could say.
Yeah, I'm also still an Amity fan. I feel like the first season, I was like, oh, she's a really interesting character. And now with the season 2, there's the more emotional elements of the show have really started to come to the forefront. And I'm excited to see where, this relationship goes now. And so, yeah, I think I'm still kind of where I was.
Same for me. Amity's still my favorite character. I love everything about her. Every episode she's in just makes my life. And yeah, she's still my favorite.
Ida's still my favorite character. She's gone through a big arc. I was gonna say, the first season, if you'll forgive the nerdy analogy, her arc was basically her going from chaotic neutral to chaotic good.
Mm-hmm.
But in this one, you see she's had like a lot of she's already made a lot of changes. She's reconciled with her sister, with her mother, and she's even gotten control over her curse. So she's making a lot of headway, and it's basically helping her become stronger, which I think is going to pay off later on in the season.
My favorite character has to be honestly Luce. I see myself so much in her. Actually, no, that's a hard question because now I'm thinking about King, and King's amazing. King is king.
King is king. Yes, King is amazing.
King.
I would say for season 1, it was Hootie. Every time he was on screen, I would just always cackle. And then after season 2, after knocking on Hootie's door, he became my favorite.
Nice. But there's another character that you also seem to really enjoy that Morgan was actually just joking about before we started recording. So explain this, please.
Sorry, Johnny.
Get like interrogated. I really like a good villain. Like literally my Discord profile picture is the fairy godmother. I love good villains, and I just love Odalia. Like I know people have mixed feelings about her, and I get like I know she's like a terrible person. Just the way she's portrayed in the show is just so well written, so well done. It's so hard not to like her as a villain.
Mm-hmm. I can see that. Now, as for me, I still say Luce is still my favorite character. Now that I've seen season 2 and have looked back on season 1 to kind of like refresh myself, that, oh man, if I had a character like Luce to watch as a kid, I think that myself as somebody who is neurodivergent would be so much easier. Like I relate to her in so many ways. I've never felt that way in any character in any show that I've ever watched. I mean, she checks off everything that I pretty much was when I was a kid. First of all, I'm Dominican and she's Dominican, and she's neurodivergent and I'm neurodivergent. And, she's like a huge, gigantic anime nerd, and so am I. So when I saw that I fell in love with her. And then throughout season 2, where she became a lot more restrained in her scatterbrainness, and she thought things a little bit more clearly, and she matured. And I was like, wow, just the growth and progression of her was just absolutely phenomenal. And just the fact that she is just so incredibly compassionate and just giving with everything and not giving up on any situation no matter what happens, it just really just emphasized about how much I really love this character. Second favorite would definitely be Amity, because she went through a massive change from season 1 to season 2, and we'll talk about that in just a moment, but just absolutely phenomenal. And I also really loved Ida this season, just the parallels that she had to go through about controlling her curse, and then just looking back on how her curse affected her and how she was able to make peace with it. It was just absolutely phenomenal. All right, so characters out of the way. So let's go over to episodes. So looking back on all the episodes that we talked about in season 1, what have been your favorite season 2 episodes?
Oh, this one's going to be a tough one. I think we're going to have to all talk this out, because we ended up in a situation where every episode topped like the episode before it. Like, so, you know, I'd be going on the Reddit forum, and everyone would be talking about, you know, how Separate Tides was so good. Then all of a sudden they Saving Expulsion, and all of a sudden it's Echoes of the Past, and Keeping Up Appearances, and then also for Looking at Rooms. No, that's my favorite episode. Hunting Pals was my favorite episode. Like, it just kept going on and on and on, pretty much, until we finally got to Yesterday's Lie. And so I think this discussion, will probably be a debate in itself. I'm tied between two of them, I would say. I think Escaping Expulsion is kind of like my favorite episode, because if you remember in the last topic, I pretty much said that we were going to see Amity rebel against her parents, and that's exactly what we've got. And so that sort of is one of my favorite episodes. But I have to say, Knock Knock Knocking on Hoodie's Door, I think, was a big surprise, I think, to everybody, because here we were thinking that we were going to basically get a filler Hoodie episode. And would you believe it's progressed King's story, Ida's story, and also gave us Lumity. Like, it's an episode that really has knocked us over, I think. I think we can all definitely say.
Who knew a Hootie episode would have such an impact?
Yeah, it was the biggest surprise for Aaron and I when we first saw it together, where it was like, okay, you know, we had some heavy episodes with the previous stuff, and we just saw Ida's Requiem, and we were like, yeah, that really pushed the boundaries of Ida and, you know, Rain and their relationship, and, you know, the fact that Rain was captured by Kikimora. So we thought, okay, a Hootie-centric episode was going to make things a lot lighter, and it was going to be fun, and it was going to be a little side story right before we got over to Eclipse Lake, which we knew that was going to be the big story telling episode. Wow, we were so wrong when we first saw the episode. We were just like, it did so many things all at once. It was like piecing together all of these stories that we saw in the early episodes of season 2, culminating it all together, and then leading up into more stories that were going to be coming in the future. That was a big surprise for us.
Yeah, I think one thing also about Knock Knock on Hoodie's Door is that in regards to definitely when, you know, they put Lumity together, is that it kind of gave a bit of a commentary on like how couples that we ship are stuck together in other episodes. Like, you had like the cheesy way of doing it through like the Tunnel of Love, and then, you know, but then you strip that all away, and then you get to like, you know, the final act of that, and then it's just this really innocent, really like, you know, really sweet, like a very, very realistic way of how it all came, you know, naturally for both Luz and Amity. And so I think I have to say, Lumity, I think, is probably the most believable relationship that I've seen so far, I think, in an animated show. I think, you know, like, we can all say, I mean, don't get me wrong, I still like Arnold and Helga as a ship, and I still like various other ships as well. But if you have to ask me, if you put them all together and which one's more believable, I have to say Lumity is.
Definitely for their age group too. I think that it reminds me of seeing them interact and talk to one another, especially like in Knock Knock Knocking on Hootie's Door, when they're stumbling over their words to try to ask one another out. That just reminds me so much of like a middle school or high school sort of interaction, and it was very sweet to sort of see.
Yeah, absolutely. And also just the fact that even after they said, "Hey, would you go out with me?" and then they try to hold each other's hands, they were still just scared. Like we saw Amity clenching to her dress and Luz clenching to her stomach, and they're like, "Why is this still so scary?" Because that's how it is. I mean, when you're experiencing love for the first time, especially at the age of 14, it is going to be scary because you just took a major step in a direction that you wanted to, but at the same time, you don't know how to progress further than that. So, yeah, I think that was definitely a good episode for season 2.
So for me, one of my favorite episodes, honestly, don't go knocking on Hooty's door because finally got Lumity.
Mm-hmm.
But one of my other favorite episodes is the when we get to finally see who Hunter is, like the Golden Guard, and how him and Luce were just, how they helped each other out.
Hunting
Because,
Paladin.
yes, I couldn't remember the episode. I don't remember episode names. I'm happy you guys said the don't go knocking Hooty's door. But yeah, that's also one of my top up there. Actually, no, each episode was really good this season. Like each episode progressed the story one in some way, shape, or form.
I think one of the biggest strengths I think that it has as well is that it's not like concentrating on just one linear story. It's like there's tons of stuff currently going on in the Boiling Isles, and so every episode has done its best to kind of expand the world. And that doesn't just include focusing on our 3 main characters, which is Luz, King, and Ida. There's other stuff currently going on as well, and that type of building I think has been really important. I think for making us kind of care about this world.
Yeah, so if anybody wants to share their favorite episodes, go for it.
I think knocking on Hooty's door was mine, but I also want to mention that yesterday's lie was a fantastic way of doing the sort of imposter. I thought of doing the imposter body swap kind of plot, because for the longest time I thought whoever was impersonating Luz was going to be a villain or a bad person, and then to have it be a very tragic, sad, and sympathetic character was very sweet. I liked that. I always like when the show is able to show that characters that might be bad or whatever have some sort of redeeming quality.
I found yesterday's lie to be a bit of a gut punch, really, because it was like I had this whole theory of something's up with this camp that they went to, and something's up with this character that is imitating Luz, and we're gonna probably get a fight between Luz and this imposter, and it's gonna be one of those oh, which one is the real Luz, and then they have to kind of prove each other, one of each other, and who's the the real deal. But no, with one, it's not an evil doppelganger. It's someone who basically was brought back from the dead and was made to do experiments. And so we got kind of a secretive nymph kind of feel to what happened. And then we're introduced to V, who is very innocent and just wants to basically, live a life that she never got a chance to live. And so she's, so you feel sympathetic towards her. Camila, I think, also is. Here's the thing: Camila got a lot of hate from the Owl House fans. I think people will now feel very differently about Camila now after seeing yesterday's lie. In regards to Luz, in regards to how we ended it all with her just blurting out, "Oh, well, staying here is the best decision I ever made." It's just I don't know if she would have said that. In a way, I don't know. I just feel like it was a gut punching, line. Definitely for Camila as well. But I mean, would I have necessarily gone in that direction with it? I don't know. It seemed, I don't know. It just didn't seem something that Luz would kind of do, really. But
that is a good point. Because throughout the entire series, so far at least, she's mentioned, I want to get back to my mom, or she was texting her mother. It was never she was rejecting that side of her. So it did come across as well, maybe, yeah, I don't know. I definitely see what you're saying there.
She's conflicted. She wants to get home, but she also wants to spend more time with the friends she's made on the Boiling Isles and stop Bellows. So she's at kind of I guess she felt she was relieved that her mother wasn't too worried. So I guess in a way her guard was down and she wasn't thinking too clearly.
I think the big takeaway I think of it is that Camila isn't just this kind of out of touch, mother that everyone kind of painted her as. And even then, as that, I would argue to say, well, look, she's a single mother trying to hold down a really stressful job. At first we thought she was a nurse. Like that was one thing, and definitely with what's going on right now, as of right now, like you can imagine, nurses up and down the country, go around the world right now, are very stressed out of their minds. I mean, having to work, all sorts of awful shifts, and they're trying to deal with like death on a daily basis. So Camila gets my sympathy as if we were saying if she's still as a nurse, but then we find out that she's actually a veterinarian. So there was that on top of that, but it's regardless of like whether this episode happened or not, in regards to following Camila's story, like she would have got my sympathy either way. And I think the fact that she's seen as very caring, very understanding, even to the point where she will play along with, well, quote unquote, play along with Luz in regards to like her fantasies and stuff like that. Like you saw her in like when she sat down with the phone and Luz explained the entire thing, and even then she was like, oh, is this some kind of like game, like escape room or something like that? She's really is willing to go the 110% for Luz regardless of whatever happens.
I also appreciate anytime a show will have characters talk to one another and just explain what's going on, because one of my biggest pet peeves is when a plot is generated entirely by someone not explaining something that could maybe not easily be explained, but that
Same.
Yeah. And so having her be like, I'm in the boiling aisles, or I'm trapped here, this is a weird basilisk monster, and just kind of letting it all out. I don't know, I was happy by that. It could come across as like an expository dump, but it was more realistic to me.
Yeah, it almost kind of like feels like Russian novels in a way. Like, what's the biggest story here? Is like, is the big story like about Luz being in the boiling hours? Is the big story about Ida and this curse, or is it like just the main overarching story that introduces to this this whole this whole series is the fact that Luz and Camila can't seem to communicate that well with one another. What's the big story here?
Yeah.
Yeah, and also I think that another detail that I really like with going into Camila again was that we saw in the beginning of the episode that V was throwing away Luz's stuff, and Camila was like really concerned because she was throwing away things that she genuinely liked, like the Great Witch Azura figurine and also the tinfoil swans. And Camila did send her over to a quote unquote normal camp so that she can be able to get herself a little bit more grounded. But she didn't want to take away her creativity completely. She still wanted her to be really unique and really expressive, but she wanted her to be contained with it because she was getting a lot of trouble with the principal at school. And the one thing that I really found so genuinely heartwarming was when she brought her stuff back inside, because that just goes to show you that she really does approve of Luz's creativity, even though that she doesn't understand it. Like, that scene where V and Luz confront each other for the first time, and then Luz says that she just saw a spoiler for Monster Slayer Academia, and then she said, I'll never understand anime. But just because she doesn't understand it doesn't mean that she doesn't accept it. I mean, the one detail that somebody actually posted on Twitter, and I didn't even notice this the first time, the moment where, V was screaming because she saw Luz in the mirror, apparently somebody pointed this out, that there is a small little bisexual flag taped into the refrigerator. And I was like, I didn't even notice that. So apparently Camila...
Wait, seriously?
Yeah, seriously.
I'm now going to have to look.
Yeah, because so if this is the lengths that Camila's willing to go, like she's even accepting of of her daughter as being bisexual. It's just so Camila gets a whole lot of respect, really run the respect back to the Owl House fans, and the fact that she got out, and I can't pronounce this, she is the villain with like a shoe.
Oh, the chancla, yes.
Yeah, chancla.
Oh yeah, I like
Okay,
that a
so
lot.
yeah, this is a Hispanic thing, Aaron. So you probably don't understand this, but you see, when parents get pretty upset with their kids, they usually like to say that I'm gonna get you, whether it be with like a shoe or saying like I'm gonna you're gonna be punished for something, or whether it be a belt or something. But yeah, the chancla is definitely like a classic example on this.
Okay.
Yeah, when I saw that, I busted up laughing. It's like, oh my gosh. She actually decided to take down this crazy conspiracy nut who was talking about that demons and witches exist because they want to take our teeth and, power up their time machine on the surface of Mars. It's like, yeah. And then she's like, you know what?
Well, I mean, he got it partly right if you're a fan of the Doom series.
Sure, why not? But yeah, the fact that she had to use a sandal to basically defeat him, I just thought that was just freaking awesome.
You know, like I know we're not talking about characters as of yet, but I mean, if Camila goes on the arc, which I hope she's going on, I hope she's going on like, you know, on the Ash Evil Dead kind of like arc where, you know, she's creeped out by everything, but then finally says, oh no, I have to accept this and deal with all of it, and so she brings that to like the Boiling Isles and just starts kicking ass.
That'd be awesome.
Like-
I would love to see that. You know, by the way, the whole I don't know if you guys know this, but when Dana Terrace did a live stream for charity, there was this whole 2 lies and a truth thing that she revealed, where she talked about, okay, these are the 3 things that are going to happen in season 2 of the Owl House. 2 of them are lies, 1 of them is the truth, and they were Gus gets a growth spurt, Hootie leaves the Owl House, and Camila beats somebody up. All 3 of them happened.
Yeah.
And then they were like, we can't trust her anymore. And then she did the whole discussion about like when in Keeping Up Appearances, when we first saw the doppelganger loose, not knowing it was V. And then she said there's no such thing as creepy loose. And they were like, you know, everybody was like freaking out. And then technically she was right. There was no such thing as creepy loose. That's right. So it's like, you know what, at this point, you can't really trust Dana Terrace.
Yeah. I just say, look, when it happens, you know, like, and then we just deal with it there and then.
Anyway, I'm sorry. We got on a long tangent. So favorite episodes, anybody else? I'm sorry.
It's hard because this season was like so good, and so many different episodes tackled like different problems, where like each episode was like admirable, I guess that's the word, on its own. But I'd have to say like my favorite episode would probably be Escaping Expulsion, just because like, one, it's an Amity-centric episode, but it's also like we finally get to see Amity stand up to her toxic parents, and she finally has a reason to go against her parents' wishes and start becoming the person she wants to be, because her parents put her in the position where she has to choose over following their rules or saving Luz's life. But definitely like 2 other episodes that really hit me were Edith's Requiem, because it had a lot of significance having just a non-binary character, like a canon non-binary character where they're actually referred to as them in the show, because like growing up, like we didn't have that stuff, and that led to a lot of confusion with when people like myself were very unsure of gender identity, and I still am. But seeing a character like Rain like makes me feel a little bit more comfortable. Like it's not like I don't feel like something's so much wrong with me. It's more like I'll figure it out and I am who I am. And they kind of give off like the vibe that they just accept themselves and they love themselves. And I think that's something really inspiring to be. But also like knocking on Hootie's door. Like, yeah, I totally agree with you guys. Like the tunnel of love and the whole Lumity relationship, the way they tackled it is just beautiful. And just the misunderstanding at first. So we start getting to the heartbreak where we think like Lumity is not going to happen. And then to have it happen at the end, it was just overall fantastic. But this was just a great episode all in all. Just, beautiful.
Yeah. Mind you, I think if I recall, Morgan, I think if we went to Through the Looking Glass Ruins, I believe you're throwing confetti around after the first Lumity instance, I believe.
Yes. I'm glad someone recommended it to me. People thought I just had confetti on hand the entire series. Like, nah, someone told me to get confetti.
Wow.
Just going back to Escaping Expulsion, I mean, we talk about Amity's parents being horrible, and when we first introduced them, obviously in in Finding Willow, I mean,
Understanding Willow,
Understanding Willow in season 1, is yeah, both of them are really horrible towards Amity in regards to like trying to construct a social life and stuff like that. But I don't know. I think Alador has his breaking point. I think in that, because if you remember, like when we got to the end of the episode and Dahlia was basically saying, "Oh, I'm not going to keep my promise. I'm going to basically call every single person in the Boiling Owls and tell them never get to school again." And then Alador was just kind of like, "I'm so sick of your shit. Like, just stop it." Like she's getting powerful with the friends that she's got, and she might make a good coven head one day. Knock it off.
It was great.
I don't really have a problem with Alador. Alador seems like he's all right. Like I don't necessarily forgive him for just standing back and letting Odalia like abuse Amity, but like he seems like the more reasonable parent, and I think I could grow to like him if he changes.
I like to think he's probably the one who instigates the divorce.
Hopefully. But But it was good to see him finally stand up. You know, I was worried he would be like the standard browbeaten husband, just constantly subservient to Odalia. But you know, he's got some spine, and he's hoping he shows that more.
It makes me wonder how the Blight kids turned out to be so fun and nice when at least their mom's kind of a terrible person.
Yeah, it is kind of strange. Like that is an inconsistency, I think, in that, because you know we go back to like how Helga and Hey Arnold was, you know, he's like massive underparenting, and then you got like you know the Blights who are like massively overparenting in a way.
Yeah.
Like it's that's one inconsistency I think in the overparenting arc. I think that we got that you know the twins seem to be you know nonplussed about what's happened to them, but Amity is not too happy about it. I don't know, it's kind of weird.
Well, I don't think it is, and I'll state the reason why. You see, I think that because that they were exactly what they hoped that their children would be. I mean, they're already 16 years old, and they are already really good with their magic. I mean, they're great illusionists, and also they have the green hair, which Odalia was so insistent on all of her children having green hair. So I think that because that they were really good with their magic, and also the fact that they have the Blight look, and knowing that they had to keep themselves, I would say that they don't really show their true selves in front of their parents. I mean, even with, you know, when going over to like episodes such as Through the Looking Glass Ruins, where Emra was willing to dye Amity's hair, and then she tells her, well, don't tell mom that I did this. So I think that they're just kind of closeted. They do their goofy stuff, but they kind of do it secretly. I don't think their parents even know about this. And with Amity, I think that the reason why she kind of feels like she's the offset is because, well, she's obviously the youngest, and she has to be able to live up to her parents' legacy. Her mother's an oracle, her father does abominations, and they have this huge industry where they're able to do like the security of these abominations. And so the fact that Amity does really well with abominations, just like her father, that she has to be able to live up to that legacy. And I'm sure that Edric and Emra are really good with their grades as well, and Amity has to do the same thing to uphold the reputation. So that's why that she was the way she was, because she, you know, she was already surrounded by siblings that they, remember in season 1, they did not get along whatsoever. They hated each other. And in season 2, they got along tremendously well, partly thanks to Luz. And I think that because, I mean, we're going to mention this later on, but Luz has brought out the best in every character that we've seen in this show. Mm-hmm. But with Amity's case, she had to be the one to live up to her parents' legacy because she had to work the hardest at it. She's the youngest. She didn't grow, you know, she probably didn't have, you know, the same, and yeah, she had to have the same type of standards as her siblings. And, you know, the fact that she wasn't even born with naturally green hair, and that she had to dye it for that same reason. And also she was being controlled. I mean, we saw in the necklace from season 1 that she was wearing it throughout the entire series. So her mother was constantly controlling her. So I think that, you know, the way that Amity was acting, and I think the way that Edric and Emra were acting, I think it's actually pretty justified.
Yeah. Big shades of how Pacifica's parents from Gravity Falls would, you know, would constantly exert pressure on her.
Yeah. So, yeah. And anybody else want to share any? Oh, Johnny, did you share your favorite episode yet?
I was kind of set already. It's a toss up between Escaping Expulsion and Knock Knock Knocking on Hooty's Door. Those 2 episodes were just phenomenal.
Right.
I think it's becoming unanimous here. I think we all just are saying that Knocking on Hooty's Door is like the best episode of the season.
It's kind of hard to say because a lot of people can make the argument about why each episode was good. I mean, they're all great in their own unique ways. Like some people would argue Escaping Expulsion was amazing because it really brought up the seeds that would be planted with Luz and Amity's relationship. Then, you know, there's also the Hunting Palisman, where we first got introduced to Hunter, the Golden Guard, and we got to know about, you know, the Palisman and getting to know a little bit more about that. Some people will say Eclipse Lake was an amazing episode because we got to see the growth in Amity and also that amazing fight scene. So every single one of the episodes that we've seen so far in this season have just been phenomenal for completely different reasons.
Yeah, I'm not saying that all the episodes aren't great. I'm just saying that I think a general consensus is to be coming around knocking on Who's Door. That's just an observation I seem to be making at the moment.
Oh, I gotcha. Okay.
They've been mentioned before, but some of my favorite episodes were Ida's Requiem. Again, because we got an awesome new character in Rain Whispers, but also that they stand up great in their own right, but also learning that they have a connection to Ida. there's potential for some good news stories to be delved into in the future with the relationship between the two and whether it might be rekindled. And also, it was great to see another look into Ida's growing, Ida's increasing depth, because throughout it she's concerned about losing the family she's acquired with King Talk, worried that King's going to want to go back to his father once he finds him, and when Luz eventually returns to the human world. So you see that she has like a place now that she's comfortable with, and she's worried about losing that stability.
I think there's one thing actually we overlooked on Ida's Requiem, and that is that, they went to great lengths to like get all these covenantless witches out of the city. So like, I mean, where did all these witches go?
Right. Yeah. They could be probably building the resistance.
Probably is, yeah.
Yeah,
So,
I wouldn't be surprised if there'll be like a major resistance. Like as soon as, we saw how, the covens, what happens if you join a coven? You not only are you stuck to like one particular set of magic, but you get controlled by it. And we saw with Kikimora controlling rain. So I wouldn't be surprised with the Day of Unity that they're going to use anybody who is belonging to a coven. And then the ones who are not are going to have to fight off against Bellows.
Yeah.
It's interesting that Kikimora has this power, but it's interesting to see how much she can actually control it. Like she seems to be getting on quite unstable. I mean, obviously that's one thing that was we missed on Eclipse Lake, is that I went on the possibility that Kikimora is like the power behind the throne, but I think that's kind of going out the window at the moment after Eclipse Lake. So.
Yeah, Eclipse Lake, that was another good fun one. Drawing from the parallels that I'd say this showed that Hunter and Kikimora are basically the Zuko and Azula of this series. Hunter does horrible things, but it's being motivated out of a desire for acceptance from his uncle. And Kikimora is basically kind of just a sociopath.
Yeah. It makes you wonder if in the future that someone's going to play them off against one another and cause like a massive civil war inside the Emperor's Coven.
I see it coming. Also, this is something that I found pointed out online. The scene in the scene in the caverns in the Titan's veins, where Amity is trying to persuade Hunter to basically stop doing such horrible things just for his uncle's approval. They pointed out someone pointed out the parallels. This is another character voiced by Mae Whitman, who's attempting to sway characters that she's enemies with to their side, but gets betrayed in the end, occurring in a cavern lit by green rocks.
I like how they're going towards like Kitara from Avatar and pointing out that that's the character that they like from Mae Whitman, and then in Escaping Expulsion basically she ends up giving like a pie full of fairies to Luz, and keep in mind Mae Whitman has also voiced Tinkerbell in like the Tinkerbell TV series. So yeah, I think we can tell which what the producers think of which shows by the way that they get their voice actresses to act.
Yep. It's nice when you have those little homages.
Well, the one thing I'm a bit worried about, I think, in regards to Eclipse Lake is the fact that Hunter, he's becoming, he can be potentially redeemable, but I don't know, like Luzer's giving him a chance, Amity's giving him a chance. How many chances do you give somebody before you say this guy's a piece of shit and he's not going to change?
Yeah, good point.
Like, I got up thinking that, again, we'll probably talk about this in theories, but I don't know, like, given all the stuff that's surrounding Hunter right now, I don't think he's long for this world.
It's kind of hard to say, but again, we'll discuss about that when we head over to theories. Yeah, so I want to definitely discuss about some of the things that were brought into season 2. So we got a lot more new characters this season. We already talked about that in terms of the episodes. We got introduced to the Golden Guard Hunter. We got introduced to Rain. We got introduced to Gwendolyn, Ida, and Lilith's mother. We got introduced to V. And that's a great thing. Very similar to Avatar, in which, when you have a show that a lot of people really like, and they have characters that a lot of people really enjoy, adding a new character can be either really, really good good or really, really bad, because they tend to, take the side of other characters that were already invested and that a lot of people already liked. But the fact that these characters that were brought in are not just as good as the ones that were featured already in the series, but have also became instant fan favorites. And I just thought that that was an interesting parallel. I mean, I'm not sure if you saw my series of tweets that I've been doing over the past few weeks, but I would compare all the stuff that was brought in to Monsters from Work with the Owl House. And I was talking about like, oh man, every single time that we were introduced to a character, it was like instantly likable. Like Rain was a fantastic addition to the series, getting to know more about Ida's past and the fact that they themselves are a bit shy, but at the same time, they're the head of the Bard Coven and they're rebellious against Emperor Bellows, and that was awesome. We got introduced to Gwendolyn, who was trying her very best to help with Ida's curse. And, she did take a little bit of extremes, but she was doing what was best for her daughter. And, the reconnection with Lilith was also really great. And also the fact that she was able to help Luce out with the reveal that a human once stayed in the Boiling Isles many years ago. Then there was also Hunter, which, was the Golden Guard, the child prodigy that was the head of the Emperor Coven after Lilith betrayed Emperor Bellows. And then we saw that he's kind of, what Luce would describe a bad yet sad boy. And then finally, there is V, which, a lot of people were instantly going to hate on this whole doppelganger Luce thing, but actually turned out to be a wonderful character. And I just thought, wow, that is just absolutely incredible that they were able to do that. And also the characters that were introduced in this season are completely different now. We already talked about Amity and we already talked about Ida, Luce, and, various others, but we have Gus, who went from, the young preteen, who's obsessed with like humans and wanting to be their ambassador. And then we had an episode with him where, he was with the Glandis kids and he wanted to impress them because he thought that illusions were like completely useless. And then he helped out with protecting the Glander stones. And then we had Lilith, who went from a character that everybody hated to a character that everybody loves now and hopes that she comes back. And then we have Camila, which, was only featured in that one episode and a lot of people didn't like, but now everybody just loves her just as much. So I just thought the parallels that they were able to do and the interesting risks that they were able to take was just absolutely great with all these character additions. And don't even get me started about like the fact that they were able to make Luce and Amity canon. That is incredible. This stuff is usually saved for like the last episode of the series. Like, Cora and Asami are together. Adora and Catra are together. Princess Bubblegum and Marceline are together. But they're usually like toward the end of the series. But here it's in the middle of its second season. That's incredible.
Yeah.
I just think that, obviously with the introduction of the Golden Guard and, I wasn't too high. I'm really glad his name is Hunter. Like, Golden Guard just doesn't rhyme with me as far as I'm concerned. Like, it's just, it's a kind of a holder name really, but originally when we had this original discussion, I was like saying, this is probably going to be a teenage character who is going to be like a love rival for Amity, and like that's he was going to basically put his moves on Luz, and then he was going to be spying, in Hexite's school for Emperor Bellows to try and find out more about, getting about the human world and Luz and the portal key. I also believe that Luz still had the key at that point, but no, they went in this direction of like he's the nephew of this of Emperor Bellows, and they've gone in this direction with it, and so it's worked as far as I'm concerned in regards to like having a antagonist who seems to have they're trying to push this arc of like he can turn around, but I don't know, it's like fool me once, shame on you, fool me twice, shame on me, it's see where that goes. I mean, in regards to Gwendolyn in Keeping Up Appearances, like I remember when I saw the title Keeping Up Appearances, and for those of you who do not know, there is a British TV series called Keeping Up Appearances, which stars Patricia Routledge, and I was looking at that and kind of like connecting the dots together and thinking, oh, was she going to be the voice of Gwendolyn? And that would have been hilarious if it was. Like she would have driven everybody in that house insane. But no, unfortunately, it wasn't. So yeah, but I think whoever voiced Gwendolyn, I can't remember the name of the person, but they did a pretty good job. And yeah, it was that was a good commentary on like you shouldn't believe everything that's too good to be true.
I'm quite a bit of a skeptic when it comes to natural healing and alternative medicine. So I was very happy to see an episode that was basically calling out these hucksters as con artists who care more about your money and aren't interested in your health.
Isn't this so relevant to today?
It really is.
Yeah,
I feel like it was a call out.
Oh yeah, I mean, especially because I saw the news about people who are taking horse deworming medicine because they think that'll help protect them from COVID. Like, yeah, you need to watch this episode. Don't take the horse medicine.
Or heaven forbid, bleach.
Oh yeah.
Oh, the
I
freaking
remember the
Lysol
bleach.
injection.
Yes, the Lysol
the bleach
injection.
injection.
Yes.
Oh my, yeah.
But character-wise, we were introduced to obviously the Glanders students. I have less respect for now because they were going to go grave robbing for the fact that they want to become more powerful. I mean, I couldn't think of a more disgusting thing to do in that regard. So they've fallen down, my league in that regard. By the way, that completely killed the Bria Gus ship that the fans kind of concocted. That's out the window now.
Yes, it's down. It's down with the Titanic for all the sunken ships.
Yeah, that ship's Titanic. But I think in regards to also Rain as well. I mean, it's kind of awkward with Rain because every time I think of Rain from Mortal Kombat, which is kind of, I don't know why. It's just that's just stuck with me from from the 90s. That's just that flashback. But I don't think we're going to see Rain do any fatalities. Thank goodness. But I'm interested to see with Rain and with the bats. Are they going to within an episode, are they going to do a massive breakout in the Conformatorium and free a load of people, cause some ruckus in between? I can see them doing that.
I mean, they've done it before.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I think probably the Conformatorium is probably the worst place you can probably put them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that with all the stuff that was brought into season 2, I mean, in my opinion, season 2 was a massive improvement over season 1. I mean, even Dana Terrace herself said in an interview that this is the season that she had, complete control over from Disney. So the first half of the episodes from Disney were mandated by them because they didn't want it to be too dark, or they didn't want it to be too scary for the kids, because Dana's more into horror comedy and with a mixture of mystery. So of course Disney had to go and do a huge mandate and have a whole bunch of executives breathing down her neck. So which sucks, by the way. And
kind of ironic they do that when neither Luz or Amity have had a mandate.
I know. My God.
It kind of makes me, it's a bit off topic, but it kind of makes me wonder, we got, as of this recording, we got the Ghost of Molly McGee coming up. It makes me wonder, are we going to be in a situation where, the first 5 episodes, you can definitely tell Disney have got their hands in them, and then all of a sudden, the creators take control, and then the show just starts to get better?
I've been noticing that over the past 10 years, where shows tend to start pretty slow, but then they just start getting better either by a mid-season or by the second season. I don't know. I mean, I don't know if it's because of it's being mandated, or maybe they just have an idea of what the writing style that they were going for, but I don't know. I've just been noticing that lately. But then when I hear about okay, this is, Disney coming down to Dana saying, no, we want an episode like this. And then when you're watching the first early episodes of season 1, it's a bit rough when you had a taste of what season 2 had to offer. Anyway, but yeah, I think that with the stuff that they wanted to do, and granted, Dana said this is the light part of the season. And every episode I've seen from reactions, whether it be from you, Morgan, or from our friend Fusionator, who unfortunately wasn't able to join us, or even Rebecca Rose, who wasn't able to join us, at least at some point, everybody or most people have either cried or have gotten at least a slight panic attack. So it's this is the light part of season 1, of season 2. Oh man, this is gonna be like Steven Universe all over again. Am I gonna see a trial episode? Are we gonna see an episode where we're gonna have this huge climactic battle where it's all gonna be, the Earth is gonna be at stake? It's geez, man.
I think the huge climactic battle, is inevitable at this point. I think it's unless they give us some kind of twist, I don't know. But mind you, we've kind of been through this first half of this season, like, I mean, all the fans have pretty much mapped out the worst case scenarios, and so far, those worst case scenarios really haven't played out all that much. Like, I could probably imagine this show could be a whole lot worse. I guarantee you.
Yeah.
And like, but thankfully we're not there yet. I mean, obviously we've got half a season to go, but who knows what the other episodes are going to entail. But I think the one thing I will definitely say is that I like to think that Dana Terrace and the writing crew are at the point where it's like they won't do anything overly dramatic unless the story calls for it.
Right.
Like it's I don't think they're like sadists or anything like that where they just want to like just mess around just for the sake of messing around. I think the one thing that makes this show so good is the fact that the twists and the turns are of the such. I mean, like obviously yesterday's lie gave me a bit of concern, I think, when we left off, but I like to think that maybe, who knows, maybe by the time we get to do another one for these casual chats to 2B, maybe I might be saying something different, but I mean, I like to think that the writing crew are getting this right and basically saying we're not going to do anything dramatic unless it really calls for it, and we have a good reason for doing it.
Right.
Yeah, I have faith in them.
Yeah.
Same.
Yeah, so I think now let's get into the theories because, oh my gosh, like everything has just been opened up to the point in which everybody has their theory about what's going to happen with Bellows and the whole Grimwalker thing. And also, Luce making the promise to Camila and the Day of Unity thing. Just, oh my God, there's so much that people have been debating on and theorizing on. So floor's open. Who wants to say something?
Well, I think we can all agree Hunter's the most interesting theory. I think out of the whole lot of them. I think we can all agree on that. Like, let's say he is. I mean, I hate to say this to everybody, but again, like I said before, I don't think Hunter's long for this world. Like, cloned characters don't seem to like have much shelf life. I think in these shows, I mean, like we can look at Ashi from Samurai Jack, we can look at Annie from Batman the Animated Series. I mean, we can. I mean, the only people I've kind of seen who are still, walking around and doing things seem to be Agent 47 and probably Solid Snake. I think even he's going to probably keel over at some point for the Knights of the Fox die. But I mean, unfortunately, I think when I say that, Hunter's doing horrible things at the moment. In regards to like, for the sake of his uncle, it makes me wonder, like, is the big climactic thing for him is that, he's going to throw himself in front of Luz and, Hunter's going to get killed, or like, so he's going to do, something's going to happen that's going to happen to Hunter, or, Bellows dies and he dies with him, it's, I don't know. I think the death clock, I think, on Hunter, I think, is far a lot shorter than some of our other characters right now.
Place your bets.
Yeah,
I think with Hunter, I don't think he's type of like a clone. I think he's more of a hybrid based off his magic alone. Because I strongly believe that Bellows is the brother of Philip. I know that's like a big thing that everybody was trying to like map out and figure out. I've noticed it like when I was watching Eclipse Lake. When you look at Bellows, you look at his face and his ears. They're drastically different than Hunter's. They're a lot more smaller, almost like human. And I was thinking like, maybe he cropped his own ears and having a facade that he's actually a witch in disguise and pretending to be one. Because as we know, he uses his magic from his staff, and Hunter does the same thing. So I think Hunter is a relative of Philip. And whether he's a Grimwalker from the eyes is hard to tell. But I think along the lines with Bellows being a human, he's trying to actually get back because he's said he's been there before. So I think it's interesting, very interesting to see if he's actually going to be a human or not.
Yeah.
One creepy thing that I can just imagine is that, they're walking through a graveyard and Hunter sees his name on a tombstone, and then he realizes that, he is a Grimwalker because, his uncle dug up his body and took like part of his bone and used that to like make him. I can see them doing some creepy shit with that.
Oh shit, that's fucked up.
Yeah.
I'm kind of in agreement. I don't know if Bellows will turn out to be either Philip or his brother, because it's kind of split on what it will be, but I'm kind of anticipating it'll turn out maybe that whichever one of the Winterbanes it is, maybe they killed their sibling
Well, one theory I'm going with is that Emperor Bellows is not his like original self. So, for example, like the reason why Emperor Bellows, I think Philip Bellows is like Philip Witherbane in some aspect, where like Philip Witherbane decided to like, oh, I'm stuck here in the boiling house, but I want to keep myself alive in case I want to return back to the Earth realm. So what he did was he probably created like these Grim Walkers and transferred himself into that, and he's basically been doing that to keep himself alive for like hundreds of years.
Kind of like Mamo from Mystery of Mamo.
Maybe, and then like this particular reincarnation that he built for himself was like demented, and like, or maybe he's been going slowly crazy as he's been like transferring himself over from time to time. Like, it's like I hate to make this comparison. Maybe it's kind of like Exploration Date in Team Fortress 2, where if you teleport the bread too many times, it starts to turn into like a monster.
I think Bellows would have. I think if you gave Bellows the power to teleport bread, he'd be too amused by that to want to basically conquer or oppress.
Well, I only make that comparison. Like, he transfers himself into like multiple bodies, like over hundreds of years, but slowly as he does it, he degrades, like starts going insane because of it. Like, that's one possibility.
Yeah, I know there's gonna be some big twist connecting Bellows to the Winterbane family. I'm just not sure how it's gonna play out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but I'll just safely say this: like, I don't give Hunter much time on this world. That's all I can say.
All right, then.
Yeah.
Anybody else?
I'm really curious about what the Titan has to do with all this,
Yeah.
because they keep dropping those little hints.
I sometimes wonder about the Titan. Like, is this the same? Like, because I kind of go back to Halo, and where the Covenant keep going on about like the Great Journey and like like all this other stuff, but it's actually all just lies, and like it's like they don't really know what they're talking about. And like the Halo system is just like is a defense mechanism against the Flood. It makes me wonder, like is what Bella's actually talking about in regards to the Titan, or anybody for that matter. I mean, like I can guarantee. I think the Titan's been there longer than before anybody else. Like maybe the Titan has like is like something else that isn't like what they believe it to be. It's that's one thought I had about the Titan.
Has anyone ever played Xenoblade Chronicles?
No.
Because there's something similar to that in the game Xenoblade Chronicles. You have two warring factions who are actually their worlds are the corpses of giant creatures that died in battle, and life developed on them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we've seen from this show that the people who worked on the Owl House, they are huge anime and video game junkies. I mean, there's a Solid Snake body pillow, for crying out loud.
And Dragon Claw Z, don't forget that.
Yeah,
Dragon Claw Z, I remember that.
Dragon Claw Z, that's very true. But but still, the fact that you said this theory, Jim, I wouldn't be surprised if that were to be the case.
Yeah.
It's also one other thing actually that also relates to Hunter as well. Like, Emperor Bellows keeps talking about the Titan having big plans for him, but maybe the Titan, if he is real and that he is being, he is talking to Bellows, maybe he's being a bit vague with him, and maybe Hunter might one day turn on Bellows, and the Day of Unity might actually be him like uniting like everybody on the Boiling Owls against him. Like maybe that's what the Titan means by he's got big plans for him. Like he's there to get rid of like the bad guy.
Ooh, that would be a nice dramatic irony.
Absolutely.
I think tying back into hunting Palisman and where Luce gets the Palstrom wood, I think that's gonna play a huge factor into her and Bellows' relationship. I think she's gonna want to hold up her end of the promise to her mother, and she's gonna end up giving the Palstrom wood to Bellows because we know that he uses them for something, keeping his power, keeping him sane. So I think she's gonna make a trade with him for the Palstrom wood for her to go back, a one-way ticket.
Her Paladin's going to be a sandal.
Yes. And that's actually funny that you were mentioning that, because there are 4 different theories of what Luce's Palisman is going to be. One is a bat, because she has the bat cell phone cover. And if you remember from Eclipse Lake in the Tamagotchi segments where, Amity's avatar is a cat based off of Ghost, her palisman, and then Luz is a bat. So people are thinking maybe it's a bat. The second one, a lot of people...
I mean, on that one, I mean, wasn't there? I mean, you guys will forgive us, guys. I've not only watched a couple of episodes of Amphibia, but wasn't there like a thing? I think that Sprigg said like you're the cat to my bat or something like that.
Oh, the cat to my bat. That's right. Yes.
Yeah, I think that's what it's reference to. I think
possibly. I'm not too surprised. I mean, they have Amphibia and the Owl House have referenced each other multiple times. I mean, the Calamity box is in one scene. Hunter has a Sprigg plushie in his bed. So yes. The second theory that I've seen is a bird. There's a blue bird in Dana Terrace's avatar, if you were to take a look into her Twitter account. And people are saying, oh, well, we know that, Ida has Albert and Lilith has her raven and Gwendolyn has her eagle. So, to fit into the Clawthorne family, Luce is going to have a bird. So here's a blue bird and the Palisman wood is blue. The third theory I saw is a snake, which I thought that was a stretch until, somebody was pointing out, oh, if you take, the Owl House logo and put it upside down, you have that. It's like, that's a stretch. I don't think that's going to be.
Well, not only that, there's all the references to snakes in the show as well. Like at the very beginning episode, like Luz has like a snake, like in her book report. And then you've got her waving her arms, thinking that she has snakes for arms.
Oh yeah, that's right.
So like, there's plenty of like, snake references, I think, in the show. So I think it wouldn't be too far fetched if Luz ends up with a snake palisman at the end, if she has with one anyway. I don't know.
Yes. And then the fourth and final one, it's a bit of a stretch, but again, I could probably see it, is the otter, because we know that Luce loves otter. She has the otter costume. She talks about like an otter with a dark side. So yeah, I mean, that's the four theories that I've seen. I think in my opinion, it's going to be neither of them, but I'm genuinely curious about if, what it's going to be.
I hope it's a bat. I love bats, so I'm team bat here.
I wouldn't mind a snake. Snake would be good.
Mm-hmm. Maybe it'll be a mouse as a little homage to the Echo Mouse.
Oh, that would be so cute. Yeah. I love that.
As long as it doesn't have like big Disney ears on it, I think that's fine.
Oh God, please no. Cursed Palisman.
Speaking of, now this is a little question off topic, but if you had your own Palisman, what would it be?
I'd be between a sheep and a fox.
I would have an otter. I love otters. Or it would be an owl because I'm also an owl fan. Or it could be a wolf. I'm also a huge fan of wolves.
Mine would be either a fox or a bat.
Mine would be a bat, I think.
Well, for me, I'm thinking like a monkey.
Monkeys?
I was like, I don't know. Yeah.
Okay. Maybe shaped like Donkey Kong.
Possibly.
Mine would probably be a wolf. Because I just love wolves.
I think a fox or a wolf.
Okay. Cool. All right. Anybody else have any theories to share?
Sorry, go on.
Honestly, you guys said all of mine.
Yeah. This is one that I just came to mind. What if Basha joins up with Bellows to get revenge on Luz and her friends?
For what reason?
Because of Grudgeby.
Because she's a biatch.
She will make my hit list.
She'd need more motivation than that, I think.
I can see that happening, but only if they use her in that sense. Like Bellows would have to use her as some form of what's the game they play? Grudgeby?
Yeah, Grudgeby.
Yeah.
In that sense. But outside of that, I feel like she won't care.
I could probably see the so-called cool kids probably if things start getting desperate and we start getting closer to the day of Unity, maybe things aren't looking as secure as Bellows would like. Maybe by going on a massive recruiting spree and recruit every horrible character into the Empress Coven just to show up his support. One thing they could potentially do. I think one thing we haven't really discussed about is probably Bellows himself.
Okay.
I mean, I believe. Well, I mean, I don't know if he's cursed with it or not, or if it's just been a byproduct of what he's been doing to himself. But I mean, he seems to resemble a Wendigo creature. So, which seems to be.
Oh my God, you're so right. I didn't even think of that.
Yeah. Which as someone who is into first-person shooters, kind of comforts me in a way because I could probably take him down with a shotgun. But in regards to like mind you, that won't be the end of the story. I think like if he is like Grimwalker, like he'll end up he ought to like cut out whatever's powering him up and burn that in a like a massive furnace, which the Emperor's Coven has a massive furnace in it, so that'll do the job. But, yeah.
Fire also work on Wendigos.
Well, no. Well, the story of Wendigos go is that conventional weapons will take them down, but then you have to cut out his icy heart and then burn that in a furnace.
That's okay.
Basically, it'd be the same as like throwing the ring in the pits of fire in Lord of the Rings.
I have a theory. I think it's crazy. Maybe it's even stupid, but I just been thinking about this for quite a while. I've been thinking about this over the past few weeks, and I don't know if there's any truth to it or not, but I just thought it was really interesting. I think that there is some correlation with the Clawthorns and the Widabanes. I mean, the thing that got me clicking immediately was when we saw in yesterday's lie about the two brothers and, they were taken in by a witch and they were never seen again. So we saw this where one of the brothers had either, I don't know, it was a cardinal or a robin, I'm not sure, but it was some type of bird. And we saw that in Hunting Palisman that the cardinal went over to Hunter, and there's like a connection with Emperor Bellows. I mean, if the whole thing about Bellows being a brother of Philip Widdabane is true. Now I've noticed that the Clawthorns all have bird palisman, and I noticed that in Keeping Up Appearances, where did Ida find the portal door? She found it in her property, so maybe. That could be a possibility that maybe the Widabanes lived around that property once upon a time. I mean, even with Gwendolyn, when she heard about Philip Widdabane from her great grandmother, it's like, okay, maybe it's like a story from like a long time ago, but nobody else from the series ever brought it up. So I'm just thinking that maybe there's some sort of connection between the two. I mean, the thing that really just hit me the most was when somebody actually put together a set of photos with the codes. If you guys already remember about the codes where, Dana likes to hide like all of these letters in the background. And if you put it together, it spells out something that's going to happen in the season. And in the first season, we had 2 witches torn apart, now alone, 2 hearts of stone, a curse of feathers and mud, a betrayal of blood. And we thought that, okay, this matches up with Ida and with Lilith. They're 2 witches, they're torn apart and now they're alone. There's the curse, and then there's a betrayal of blood. But the whole thing about the mud, I didn't notice about the mud thing until I saw Bellows' curse, where he's turning into like some sort of mud creature. And then there's this whole 2 witches torn apart, now alone. Did there something had anything to do with the brothers? Like maybe there was some sort of disagreement, or maybe there was some sort of like fight that might have happened, like maybe a Twilight Zone situation, like where, maybe one brother wanted to immediately go home, which was Philip, and then the other one, maybe which was the brother, just got lost in power and wanted to take over the Boiling Isles. So, yeah.
I'm reminded when I just remembered this watching this show of I'm getting a lot of like Amnesia energy. If you ever played the game Amnesia?
No, I have not.
Whole, like, no. Just real quick, the idea was like that there's like an extra dimensional being that came to Earth and was trying to get back. And of course it takes place in like old, I think 17th century or something like that. But I enjoy the combination of kind of sci-fi alien tech sort of thing with a more medieval fantasy setting. And I think that Owl House has been doing a really good job with that. That's just an aside I wanted to throw in there.
Oh yeah, sure.
Oh, I'm sorry. This reminded me of something. Going back to Keeping Up Appearances, Gwendolyn did mention about her great grandmother knowing about humans who roamed. It was probably the Widabanes. So that could tie into the Clawthorns have crossed paths at one point with the Widabanes.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking as well. So I think that there is some sort of connection here. I don't know what. Like maybe they knew each other like from like dating back hundreds of years ago, or maybe it was like they knew each other offhandedly. Maybe they were even related. I have no idea, but I think that there is some sort of connection there, because I do see parallels with, Ida and Lilith, and with Philip and his brother. Like there has to be something that gels it together. I don't know what yet, but I don't know. It's just something that I've been thinking of for quite a while.
I was just thinking, because here's the thing about, I'm not sure anyone, has ever talked about this. I mean, I've got a few things about this. Do you notice that witches and humans are pretty much genetically humanoid? pretty much at this point. Like they have similar characteristics, but obviously they have very different like ears and like vial sacs and things like that. Like what if at one point they all lived in the same world?
It could be a possibility, and maybe it's something with the Titan. Maybe that caused them to separate. Who knows?
Well, isn't that Bellis's plan is to merge the two?
Yes.
Okay, that would make sense then.
So yeah, because I think there's probably like I don't know how much they believe in evolution, but I mean we all evolved from monkeys at one point, and so like could the same have happened with these witches as well? Like they've evolved from like maybe evolved themselves from humans in a different way. I don't know.
All right, so going back to what you guys were just saying about like Lilith, Ida, and like the brothers and stuff, and how they're becoming humanoid. This is what I know. After hearing you guys speak and stuff, I'm thinking, and I was like, yo, what if it's like this, right? One of the brothers, obviously, gets left behind or dies there, whatever, right? Just leaves the other brother. What if one of them fell in love before all this happened, and then bad blood went down, yada yada happens, and then there's only one brother now? The brother was then left to take care of the child or his child, whatever. That's why they look humanoid, and that's also the bloodline now between Ida and Lilith, and the humans. It's high-key far-fetched as I'm saying this out loud.
I mean, we did know from Eclipse Lake that Philip and his companions did go over to the cave where Eclipse Lake was, and Philip was the only survivor, and none of his companions survives. We don't know which companions he was referring to.
Also, well, those are something else as well, which I'm not dismissing, Malia's theory, but Gus is obviously, a different skin color from everybody else, and also there's various other ethnicities that seems to be amongst the witch population. So they may not necessarily, these witches may not necessarily have existed within, the Salem times, on the when in the New World, and also may not have just existed in England, when the obviously, in the days of like witch hunting and witch finding and stuff like that, like there's a possibility that there's witches existed all over the world, and then because obviously with through the fact that humans were fearful of witches, and because of witch trials and things like that, like they fled to the Boiling Isles and fled through the portals.
Yeah, there's actually a really interesting discussion about Willow. They're saying, according to some discussions, I don't know if it's been confirmed by Dana or not, but apparently Willow is half Korean and half Black. And this is a connection with Tati Gabrielle, who is the voice of Willow, and she is half Korean and half Black. So I guess it does make a lot of sense, considering that Park is actually a very common last name for Koreans. And also we do see some Asian influences in her compared to all the other characters.
Yeah. Something that got pointed out to me earlier today, this goes with it, but it shows like just how in frame like the Boiling Isles is with the human realm is, and actually in Gravity Falls, it's mentioned. The Boiling Isles, like if you look in the book, it's there. And then also, how Stan was like, I was married to somebody for a day, whatever, less than a day.
Marilyn,
yeah.
That was actually Ida.
A lot of people have really brought up that discussion, saying that Ida is Marilyn. So I mean, I could definitely see that happening, to be quite honest.
And so just like how, Ida always goes into the realm or whatever, it makes sense. And oh shoot, my laptop's about to die. I don't have my charger. Not my laptop, my phone's about to die. I don't have my charger. This is bad.
Okay. Well, while you're doing that, now that you say that, we're going towards this Day of Unity. Is this Day of Unity actually a lot bigger than we're being led on to believe? You had the crossover with Amphibia and the Owl House, at Comic-Con with that script reading, and now we're having these kind of theories kind of tied together with Gravity Falls. It kind of makes me kind of interested to see what the finale of season 3 is going to be.
I mean, there is a connection with Gravity Falls and with the Owl House, considering that not only Dana Terrace, that was one of the first shows that she worked on, and also Alex Hirsch, the creator of Gravity Falls, is the voice of King and Hootie. So there's a little bit of parallels with that. And, again, the Amphibia stuff is pretty, obvious if you look in the background, considering that, they're both shows that were, done around the same time. So they definitely do reference each other back to back.
Well, it'll be interesting to see what comes of this. If maybe they're setting us up for something.
Possibly,
So,
yeah. I mean, maybe
yeah.
we'll have an Avengers Endgame where all the universes come together into one.
I actually would like that.
Yeah.
Luz is there with all her friends. Like the Emperor's Coven's coming over the hill. They look absolutely defeated. And then all of a sudden, Luz gets a thing in her ear saying, "Oh, hey, are you there?" And then a portal opens up, and it's like, it's Marcy, Anne, Sasha. They come through with like all their people, and then you just get like one portal open, one over and over again. It's like all the heroes from like all the Disney shows from past. That would actually be a really good thing to build up to.
Yeah.
Maybe Hunter could play a role in that too. Like Hunter, sends out like a desperate message to the whole thinking that he's going to the whole boiling house, explaining what's going on and the reason why he betrayed the Emperor's Covenant, what's going to happen with the Day of Unity. But instead of going to the boiling house, it goes to all the other shows. They hear it in Amphibia, they hear it in Recess, they hear it in DuckTales, they hear it in in Gummy Bears. They just hear this message, and then they realize, oh, wait a second, well, we've got these portal doors too, and then it all kicks off. That'd be kind of cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, another theory I was thinking of, we still don't know who wrote the Good Witch Azura books.
No, we don't.
Is that going to be explained in 2B?
I mean, to be quite honest, Azura was less focused on in season 2 compared to season 1. I think that if there is a theory that the Great Witch Azura has some connections in some way, shape, or form, that would be really, really interesting. I don't know. I think that theory, if you remember that animatic that we saw, Aaron, about her mom being the Great Witch Azura.
Good Witch Azura. Well, that's less likely now given yesterday's lie, but one other theory I was thinking of, maybe Azura comes back from the future, and she's meets Luz and Amity, and Luz and Amity geeking out because obviously they've seen they feel like Azura is real. But Azura says, oh, actually, I was really geeking out about meeting you two, and then he's insinuated Azura is their future daughter, and
I love that theory.
We're going into infamous territory right over here, where Cole was fighting off against the main antagonist of the series, and it just turned out to be him from the future.
Yeah.
It's so Azura needs explaining, I think. It's because it's not explained why both books are in both the Boiling Isles and in the human realm.
You remember that it was explained about the Titan's blood, where things are leaked between both realms. So I'm sure that at some point when Ida was around and collecting
then Patricia, where did the books originate from? Were they originally on the Boiling Isles, or were they originally in human realm?
They were washed up. That's from Through the Looking Glass Ruins. If you notice quickly on the crystal ball that Luce uses, it says mysterious books wash up on shore. So it's probably leaked for the Titan's blood. If you rewatch it, you have to pause very quickly when she's looking through the crystal ball.
Okay, so they're from the human realm then, and then Amity found them, basically.
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay, then.
It makes a lot of sense considering that it was from the library, and Amity, works at the library, and she also has her own little section. So, yeah, I think that she just genuinely likes the Great Witch Azura books. We don't see anybody else reading them other than just her and Luce.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But regardless of there's so much stuff that can come out of the show. It just the whole thing's just thrown open pretty much. Where are we going to go in the second half of the season? This is going to be a long hiatus for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I think it makes me interesting to see if Amphibia and Ghost of Molly McGee can hold the attention of Owl House fans, whilst we're waiting through all of this.
I think Amphibia will definitely do a good job with that, because after what happened with True Colors, everybody's going to want to know what happened afterwards. So yeah, I think Amphibia will be able to do the job. As for the Ghost and Molly McGee, I'm not sure. It's a brand new show, so we don't know how that's going to turn out. But yeah, I think that Amphibia will be able to hold the fans for a little bit. Now, speaking of which, I guess we can just wrap things up. So what would you like to see happen in season 2B?
I think you can see Lumity kind of like develop and see that going on. Also, I would actually like to see them kind of like flash between Camila and V. Maybe Camila might turn around and say, why am I waiting around for Luce to build this portal? I mean, surely there must be something here that I can do. And so, like, maybe she herself always starts like thinking, what else can I do here, and starts discovering stuff that she didn't realize.
That's
like-
actually a really good point, because Titan's blood is able to leak between both worlds. So maybe Camila can find Titan's blood easier in the human realm than in the Boiling Isles.
Yeah,
because
there's another thing we haven't. There's one thing we haven't considered as well. Like, Villa Widderbane built one portal door, but how do we know that's the only portal door he built?
That's a good point, actually.
Like, has he got like a spare one, like hanging around somewhere on Earth?
Either that, or maybe a prototype of a portal door, and then maybe he improved it over time, and then that's the portal door that we see in the show.
So, but I think Lumity needs to expand. We need to find out what this Day of Unity is all about, because it's not really well explained. Also, Belos and Hunter, and just continue. Also, actually, one thing we haven't even talked about a lot is King. Like,
that's right. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Like, you know what? I was so I was looking, in the very end of Knock on Hootie's Door, when this figure turned up, and like he sounded he sounded like the Kratos from God of War when he first came up, and I thought, oh my god, are they actually using the same voice actor for this character?
No, it's not the same voice actor. That's Kevin Michael Richardson. Yeah.
Yeah, but
perfect choice.
Yeah, yes. It would have been a good choice if they did it. Like, that was so good. Like, and if that ended up being King's dad as well. Like, it's like you're not ready, boy. Oh, that would have been perfect. But no, we now know that King has like this have these voice powers that he has now, which he can scan stuff, he can blast things. He's got these abilities to do that. I mean, like, but now it makes me wonder, like, was King's race, if you will, like, were they the former rulers before Belos took over? And they basically just kind of erased history. Maybe?
Yeah, if you remember in the early season 2 episodes, I mean, they were theorizing that King might be the Titan's son, but then when we saw the other, what people assumed to be either a messenger or even King's dad, people were thinking maybe that's not the case. But to be quite honest, I mean, from the test that Hootie was trying to do in knocking on Hootie's door, it's inconclusive if he's a demon. So maybe King's not a demon.
Didn't consider that.
Yeah, maybe he's something else entirely. Maybe he's like, maybe he's like one of the, maybe. But it still doesn't mean that he may not have a relation to the Titan.
That's
like,
true.
He still could do. Like, I mean, it's probably just through like the bloodline that he currently has now. Through so maybe he's probably related to that in some way. Maybe he ends up talking to the Titan. Maybe.
Yeah,
I think
that could be a possibility.
With King, I had the theory that he's actually a dragon. Because we find out that his species has wings from that his quote unquote father figure. He hatched from an egg, and like he has powers like with his like voice. It's not necessarily fire like a normal dragon would be, but I think like King being a dragon is like a very possible. It's like a possible theory that could happen in canon.
Yeah, still get Hiccup on the line.
There you go. Yeah. Anybody want to? So what do you guys want to see for season 2B?
Probably Luce angst. I feel like Luce has really yet to like process and break down what's been happening to her like the past summer. And I think these past episodes, like almost every episode has been like has like a family theme going around. And now that she has like this newfound family, like the fact that she's gonna lose it at one point to keep that promise with her mother, I think it can really affect her. And I think it'd be good. I don't want to sound like me, but like I think it'd be like a good thing if she did break down because she needs it.
It kind of reminds me of Steven Universe in a way, where Steven started off as like really optimistic.
Yes, exactly.
And then when we had Steven Universe Future, and then we had all the reveals about his mother and all that kind of stuff, he really started to go through anxiety and depression.
I mean, like, I can see this going in two ways. So the first way would be that, Lou starts to kind of like, cut off from, everybody because, she wants to go back with her mother and, she wants to detach all these relationships. So unfortunately, Lumity's on the line, Ida's on the line, the King's on the line, everything's on the line pretty much. And so, and then one thing I think I could see is happening is that, she ends up going back, but, she ends up leaving the Boiling Isles in like, some kind of like trouble, and like, the Day of Unity is still going to happen regardless of what, she goes back or not. So that could still play into it. And actually, one thing I could think of is that, she goes back, her mother says, you promised to stay and you won't do anything about it. Then the Day of Unity happens, and then you got like, Empress Coven invading Connecticut, and like, the whole world's in panic. and then Camila realizes how awful things are, and then goes round back to Luz, gives her back her talisman and like her cape, and says, look, you've got to do something, like, you're the only person who can fix this, and then she pulls down the curtain and says, look, they're literally on our doorstep, and there's Steve like waving at them like on the front lawn. It's so maybe that's one thing that could happen. And then Luz ties up with everybody. They go off and save the day, and then that's it. And one thing that could happen is that maybe Camila thinks maybe the boiling house isn't so bad and goes with them. So
I wouldn't be surprised if it ends with something like that, with the portal being open so that they can visit back and forth. Because it seems like it would be very weird if it was like goodbye forever, Boiling Isles.
It would be kind of weird to kind of like just kind of end it like that, I think. And one other thing that I was thinking about, and which was I don't think maybe there's a possibility that Luz could go back and maybe Amity goes with her, and that's one other thing as well, because Amity seems to be quite keen to actually go to Earth, because maybe if obviously she's into Azura, like what other things is she into?
I mean, that is a possibility. Yeah. I mean, Gus wants to be a human ambassador. So, I mean, I'm sure that there's going to be some way of having connections. I mean, we saw it with Cora, in which she was able to have the harmonic conversions merge the spirit world and the human world together. So there's that possibility. And Star versus the Forces of Evil had a very similar plot in which it was able to merge both of the worlds together. So yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if maybe they were to go into that direction, or maybe even with Dana, where she maybe there's a possibility that maybe because of everything that happened, maybe having humans and witches merging together, maybe that'll be too much of a risk. I mean, I don't know, and there's a lot of possibilities of it.
Well, there's also the possibility that Bellis's portal is going to there's going to be a resonance cascade like in Half-Life, and the whole thing explodes and it just rips a giant hole between the worlds. And but then that causes problems between the humans and the witches, because obviously they've never seen each other before, and they're fighting each other and stuff.
Right.
So there's that possibility. So but I completely forgot what my other thought was in regards to how you can. Well, basically, my final thought is that, I mean, regardless of what happens, I mean, it is a pretty standard thing for our heroes eventually will triumph, the villains will be defeated, and they will go off their separate ways. Ida will obviously try and get hold of empty nesting. The King will probably go off with his own kind, I can probably imagine, and Luz will probably go back to Earth, and Amity might decide, hey, this relationship has changed me for the better, and that's been the best thing that could happen to me, and then they just kind of break it off at that, who knows?
I mean, Dana even herself says that she doesn't like the phrase happily ever after, so maybe it could end on a bittersweet note like Samurai Jack.
Well, even with Samurai Jack, he succeeded in his mission of destroying Aku. So if Luz succeeds Luz will probably succeed in her ability of becoming a witch, but at what cost?
Right.
She never go back to the human world again, and or maybe she's maybe it's coming at even more brazen cost, who knows? So I think Luz will triumph in whatever she does, but I think it will come at a cost.
I'm not making any I don't have any really big hopes. I'm just curious to see where it goes, but I'm hoping to see more episodes where Kikimora gets her ass handed to her.
That'd be nice.
Kiki puta, gonna get the chunkla.
Oh jeez. Oh my god. When I heard you first say that, I was like, oh my god, I cannot believe you just said that. I'm just speechless right now, Morgan.
I think, in regards to Kikimora, she's always going to get what's coming to her. I think they're building it up.
Oh, sure.
It better be the chancla.
Yes.
I'll be very upset if it's not the chancla.
That's exactly what's going to happen. We're going to have a chancla boomerang hitting on Kikimora. That's exactly.
Oh my god! Please.
Maybe she gets end up in a conversation with V, and then she sucks the power out of her.
Ooh.
Maybe because Basilisk can do that.
That's true. Yeah, so there'll be something involving with V at some point.
Oh, you know what it'll be? It'll be like Kikimora's got everyone trapped, kind of like what Rain was like, and all our favorite characters are just kind of going down, dropping like flies, and then V just comes and saves the day and sucks the life out of Kikimora, and then everyone just starts fighting again.
That could be a possibility. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if V does play a major part in like the later episodes of the series. I mean, especially since she's a basilisk and she's a shapeshifter and she can absorb magic. I mean, that just prays for something to happen with V. So yeah, I would love to see V play a bigger role in the series.
You know, it'd be funny. Like, Camila drives that station wagon.
Yeah.
And that, like, maybe they decide, like, maybe they find some Titan blood on Earth, and they said, well, I mean, we don't know how to build a door, but then they take the station wagon, like, build that into kind of like a DeLorean kind of like deal. Like,
Sure.
They drive into the boiling aisles. When the station wagon hits 88 miles per hour.
Yes.
Or 66 miles per hour if it's demon realm.
Sure. Prepare to hang on. You're going to see some serious shit. Yes. I would love it if it would kind of like lead into more of the serious stuff. I mean, I know Dana mentioned that the season that we just saw in the first half, it was the lighter stuff, but I hope that they'll gradually give us that as opposed to like angst immediately and then it gets even more angsty. No, I would like it if maybe kind of like in the first episode where Luce was feeling guilty about that Ida is now cursed and she no longer has her powers and that she had to give the portal door to Bellows, that she's feeling kind of like doubts about herself. Maybe in the first episode of the season 2B she starts feeling guilt, and then maybe she finally confronts Ida, or maybe she even confronts Amity telling about how she's feeling, and then maybe they feel sad about it but they try to help her out, and then the episodes kind of like leading up to it is just like piecing together like what's going to be happening, and maybe the Day of Unity is going to be coming closer than we think, because
I don't know, like it's just I sometimes feel like Amity's reaction in Through the Looking Glass Ruins when Luce says like, oh, I'll show you around the Earth realm sometime, something tells me that she's very keen to go with her when she gets this portal open.
I don't know, but all I know is that I'm just hoping that things just lead up like gradually as opposed to like just being angsty immediately. And then with the whole Day of Unity thing, I mean, I would love it if maybe there's like a like how both worlds can be able to come together and defeat Emperor Bellows, like at least in some way, shape, or form. I think that'd be really cool.
I just have this thing in my mind where like all the Disney characters just get together, like Bellows is there in front of us, like when then Lucia says she's like defeated at one point and then sees all the characters behind her and then turns around and says, Emperor Bellows, you wanted your Day of Unity, you got it, and then we just get this fight.
Yeah, I mean, I'm hoping that and then the other theory that I said earlier regarding about the first time that I first made a theory about like, oh, I hope that at some point we can get like some sort of form of like the beta designs incorporated into the series. But I don't know. I mean, I don't know if I know that in season 3 we're only going to get 3 45-minute specials, and I'm hoping that maybe we get a season 4 where it can be able to build up a little bit more. But I would love to see like at least maybe like one major final battle, kind of like a Steven Universe future situation in which the characters are older, they're a little bit more experienced, and then something major comes along, and now they're going to just take it down once and for all. I mean, season 3 is supposed to wrap everything up involving with like the Emperor Bellows and all that kind of stuff, and King's story and Luce's story. So yeah, I mean, and in the meanwhile, I just hope that whatever that we get later on in the second season would just be like a nice little correlation, especially with the limited amount of episodes that we have left.
Yeah, well, in regards to the future of the show, I mean, like I wouldn't be opposed to like having an Amity spin-off. I think a lot of people wouldn't be, and also like the receptions for the Amphibia Owl House crossover that they did at Comic-Con home, like that went down like a real treat. Like, so that might get people talking. Like, oh, hey, maybe we should probably do like a do a one-off special where we have the Owl House and Amphibia crossover for an episode. I think so. I don't think people will be opposed to that. Would anybody?
I don't think so.
No.
All right then. Well, does anybody have any final thoughts to share right before we conclude?
Watch the Owl House. It's one of the best animated series of the last decade.
Bring some tissues, you will cry.
All right then.
Cool.
Well, that should be it for this episode of Casual Chat. So thank you guys so much for coming on by. I really do appreciate it.
It's great to be here again.
Absolutely.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah.
All right. So go ahead, plug and promote your stuff.
Okay, you can listen to the Arun Mehta Show on arunmehta.co.uk. I'm also on Twitter at Arun Mehta Show, MEHTASHOW. If you want to ask me a question on Tumblr, it's arunmehta.tumblr.com, and I'm also on Instagram as well. So yeah, you can check me out there, and also listen to the Arun Mehta Show also on Liberated Syndication and also in various podcast feeds. It includes Apple Podcast, it includes Breaker, it includes Garner, it includes Stitcher, it also includes Radio Public. Plenty of ways to listen. And also, just to let you guys know, if you find a place you can find the Arun Mehta Show, but haven't shouted out yet, please let us know, because I do want to shout out to all our small podcast colleagues and also our networks that carry our show and do it all for free as well. So yeah.
I'm on Instagram at jbevan1985. I post videos of my open mic performances there, and just anything else that interests me. And I also post occasionally to Manic Expression.
You can just follow me on YouTube. It's just Morgan Terry. And if you want to follow me on social media, in the majority of my reaction videos, all my usernames and things like that are in the description, so you can just find it that way. It's probably easier to do that way.
So I'm on Twitter, Paul Thomas 1992. I'm also on Tumblr, GunterFan 1992. I mostly post about Adventure Time, but I also post about other things that are interesting me too. So feel free to check me out and follow if you'd like.
I'm on Instagram, Tumblr, YouTube, everything's Johnny's Fire, and I'm also on Redbubble, Johnny's Fire Shop.
Okay. And as for me, you can check me out on oldschoollane.net. I'm on YouTube, youtube.com/oldschoollane, facebook.com/oldschoollane. I'm on Twitter at Patty_B_Miranda. You can check out my podcast on Anchor, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Radio Public, all those places. New episodes of my podcast, Casual Chats and Old School Lane interviews will go there first, and then they'll go up in a few days on YouTube. If you want more detailed discussions about the Owl House, then you can go check out episode 165 of Casual Chats, where all of us discuss about season 1, and there's also 165B where Morgan and I talked about it. You can check out the Banter Broadcast where Malia and I talked about our thoughts of season 1, and also Aaron and I talked about season 2 of the Owl House on Aaron and Patricia. So that is it for everyone. Thank you so much for listening. Let us know in the comments below about your thoughts of season 2A of the Owl House. What were your favorite characters? What was your favorite episode? What were your favorite moments? Let us know of some crazy theories that you might have. What do you think that season 2B is going to offer? That's it. Hope to see you around soon, and take care.